Islam wars, please be seated. Islam, I rise, giving all praise to the great God of the universe, affectionately known to the Moorish Americans as Allah. Allah is the author, creator, the governor of the worlds, the almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. All praises are due to Allah. I extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I extend high honors to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. I extend high honors to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. I extend high honors to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. This is also the flag of our birth. I extend high honors to the acting Sheikh staff, Noble Vanguard staff who keep the peace, and giving honors to you, the ills on bays, for without you there is no Moorish movement. Islam, how is everyone?
All is well.
Praise Allah, praise Allah. I want to give honors to our brother acting Sheikh Raphael Hakeem Bey. He hit a lot of very, very powerful points, and I'm very glad that you all, touched on Jesus. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in his founding the Moorish Science Temple of America, knew the condition of our people and knew the things that were, taken away from us and the things that were presented to us. Oftentimes we find that post-slavery, the things that were presented to us, did not have an altruistic intent. There was definitely an ulterior motive, but that's all we had, you see? So we held on these things with our dear lives. Now, we'd have to ask, well, where did the European, get the concept of Jesus? Is it derived from him? Was Jesus sent to Europe? Because the Europeans they're Europeans, they're not white. That's a term we use, but they're clearly not white, right? Like the stripe in this flag is white. True?
That's right.
Okay, so there's technically nobody walking, even albinos don't look like this. Okay? So he's not a white man. So let's demystify that and take that power away, right? Because almost, if you look at the deference we give to Europeans when we refer to them as such, it's almost in an exalted, the white man, like the way we say it is even off. Y'all heard it too? Okay, it's not just me, right?
That's
Yeah, oh man, it's serious. The white man, and that was beat into you. That was beat into our forefathers, right? Oh, because the white man, the white folks ain't gonna let you. How many times you hear that of that? Oh, we ain't gonna be able to do that because white folks, you know what they did to Black Wall Street? And everybody don't hate Mo. I'm with you though. They ain't gonna let you do that, Mo. No, they ain't gonna let you do that. You see all that? Yes, sir.
I was wondering, why do we just use the name for them as Europeans?
Well, we have to be taught that. So why do we or don't we?
Why do we just use that name?
Well, again, people are known internationally by their nationalities. You know what I'm saying? Let me do this properly. I got you. Let's do it this way. I'm going to go to the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Let's go to chapter 40. Hold on. 7. Okay. And while everyone's looking, I'll just read the front of the Quran. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from a sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his father God Allah. All right? Now, in chapter 47, I want to start at instruction. Let's go to 9, right? I'll do 9 through 12, and then I'll do 15 through 17. All right? Again, chapter 47, which is entitled, for those that may still be looking, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. All right? Started in instruction or verse 9. Okay, I'll wait till one's there. Oh, don't feel bad, but you're not Roman. Those are Roman numerals. We're not Romans. Don't feel bad.
So, why?
I'll get to that in a minute. Full of questions tonight, huh, brother? I wonder why tonight. Starting in instruction 9 or verse 9. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. What your forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. Right, so that's that energy we put in calling him the white man, because we actually believe he's God. All right? Instruction 15. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. This is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who are of Moorish descent, because they honored not the creed and principles of their mother and father, and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing of. Okay? Now, you asked the question, do they all come from Europe, right? Well, firstly, let's be clear. In the ancient world, there was no such thing as Europe, right? What we're presently calling Europe was all Asia at one point, okay? When a period of time came when, these ones started coming out of, a particular region, which is the Caucasus Mountain region, okay? Anyone familiar with the Caucasus Mountains? Okay. For those that are not, anyone ever heard of the country called Turkey? Y'all know where Turkey is, right? Right where Turkey is, there's a two seas called the Black and the Caspian Sea, the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, right? Right there is a mountain, entire mountain range called the Caucasus Mountains. This is where the people you presently call Europeans originate, okay? Period of time came when they started spilling out of those mountain ranges and coming down and going different directions. All of them didn't go into what we presently know as Europe. Some of them came and went down into what you have as Russia, right? So if you ask in present day, geography, so on and so forth, if you ask a Russian what he is, right, now clearly he looks European, but geographically, Russia sits where? Is Russia in Europe?
No.
Where is Russia?
There's a map right there.
Thank you. And according to this map, since you pointed it out, and according to it, Russia is right, don't make me a liar. Where you at, Russia? Pakistan, India, come on, Russia, okay, right in here. And this would be the Asia region. So all of this right here is Asia. Now at one point, all of this was Asia, okay? But see, as with anything, just like as with Africa, just like they carved out the boundaries that we now know as Algeria and Libya and Senegal and whatever, they did the same thing, carved out a portion of Asia for themselves and created Europe, okay? A quick little trick too, ironically, right? Have you ever noticed, and this is nothing deep, it's simple stuff, like nothing deep, but it's just observation. Have you noticed like all the continents start with the letter A except Europe? You ever notice that? Like you have the Americas, right? That's not deep, stop that. But it's Americas, right? So he told you they like the deep stuff, but not even deep at all. But the Americas, Africa, Australia, right? Asia, but Europe. Because it wasn't originally Europe, it was Asia. And then even they co-opted a certain identity for themselves where they say Caucasian, right? And Caucasian is what? Caucasus and Asian. So in there, they're telling you they come from the Caucasus Mountain region. Okay? Does that make sense? Y'all okay? Yeah. All right? Yes, sir.
So not to back too far from the topic, is it fair to say that the people who left the Caucasus Mountains also came into being what we consider now, letter J didn't come into the human family until
1500s.
But the Yahudi that they claim to be now.
Okay, no. Okay, yes, same people, but they are not. So when we say Yahudi, the Jews, pale Jews, right? For the room. So from that region, like the Russian region, and all that, these are ones they call it Ashkenazim, right? The ones from Germany are the Khazarian Jews, and the ones from Spain are called the Sephardic, right? But you realize they weren't even any of that before 750 AD. That's when they adopted that, because they were caught where they existed at in that Caucasus Mountain region. They had the Byzantine Empire on one side, which was Greek Orthodox Christians, and then you had the Islamic empires on the other side. They were caught in the middle. And they realized that both of these empires functioned in a very organized fashion as political communities based on their religion. And they didn't have one. So what they did was their rulers used to be called Khans, Khan, which was something they adopted from the surrounding peoples. And one of the Khans sent for some Israelite scholars to come in, Asiatics, to come in and teach them the principles of the Torah, around the year 750 AD. And that's when they adopted, when they created what you call Judaism. But our forefathers didn't refer to it as Judaism, didn't call themselves Jews, right? That was a much later term. You see what I'm saying? Say again?
What was it before?
We didn't have a name for it. See, that's the thing. Like, if you're your own power, right? A lot of times you don't have to create the names to classify something because you don't need anything. You don't have to compare it to anything, right? The only reason a lot of the flags and the national names and whatever, because now we have to define who we are as compared to others, right? So someone will come and say, well, you're a black man, but then you say, well, what's your nationality? He has one, but you don't. Okay, that's not fair. So let's straighten that out. So let me trace myself back to the point where I did have a nationality, and then the point where I didn't, and then that's the 1700s period. Around 1774, 1779, you start getting this, all right? But if in the verses I just read, instructions I just read, you see Prophet Noble Drew Ali was very specific in saying, like in 16, said, through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery. He didn't say every color of people, right? How many people have international friends? Anybody have any international friends? Okay. What countries? What nationalities?
Russia.
Okay. Russia.
And let's see, Virgin Islands.
Virgin Islands. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are they proud of their culture?
Right. The Russians, I know, they it's such a big place.
Mm-hmm.
So
huge.
They have the ones I know, they have several different bicycles. They know how to build them.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to work on cars, engineers, chemists.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a family of a lot of chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, a lot of that too is spawned by their culture. Like you look at, let's say Pakistanians and Indians produce, and this may seem stereotypical, but if you look at the data, you'll see this. They produce a lot of doctors. They produce a lot of veterinarians, some lawyers, but not as much. But because when they're growing up, their children are nudged in this direction through their religious structure, nudges them that way. You know what I'm saying? And they're taught that when you get the degree, come back. Don't just get the degree and go off and we never see you again, right? So the community get together and fund their education. You ever wonder how a lot of them are able to go to college and stuff like that? It's because their community comes together, backs them, and funds them, right? With the catch to it that once you graduate and get the degree, you come back and help build your own infrastructure back. And that's what nationality is, right? It's no strange happening, no coincidence that, our community, and this is not, because we're not doing victim mentality, right? But our community happens to be one of the least organized, right? Also, but also happens to be the people that struggle with identity the most. Yes. The two are inexplicably linked. You see what I'm saying? So the Moorish Science Temple of America was designed to create an institution, right, whereby we could heal that, because our problems are very specific to us and only we know them. An outsider can't teach you. You see what I'm saying? Even our brothers and sisters from Africa, I love them, but they can't teach you.
That's right.
Because they have their own culture and they have their own problems to deal with. They don't have time to be dealing with yours. I tell brothers, I'm going to move back to Africa. Well, what are you bringing? Like, what are you doing in terms of infrastructure and everything? Because again, they have their own problem. They don't need you there adding to their problems, which is why you know how we do. We had a tendency to bring our problems where we go, right? But what happens is how many people, everybody's now repatriating to Ghana. Everybody's this big thing. I want to be a Ghanaian citizen and stuff like that, but haven't looked at the laws to realize that if you move to Ghana, yeah, you can move there and they'll let you buy land, house, whatever, but you can't become a citizen, not like a first-class citizen. So your citizenship is not equivalent to someone that was born there. And you know that because you can't vote. If you can't vote, that means you don't have a say-so in the government. Y'all remember a period of time when we couldn't vote? You see what I'm saying? So, and it's the same thing, and that's, every nation takes in consideration its own first, then everybody else, right? So yeah, there's a United Nations and they all come together, right, to function as one family of nations, they call it, right? But every nation, they're not slick, every nation is there based on their own self-interest. That's why they're there. They're there to see what they can get from the collective family for their own family, politically and economically. Okay, and so the Moorish Science Temple of America is a sort of institution, not even sort of, but an institution designed to, reorient our people politically, right? Because our whole worldview or how we look at things is designed to empower someone else. I heard y'all earlier talking about Jesus, right? And my brother right here asked, how do we feel about Jesus? So everyone go to the front of your Quran where it says, know thyself and thy Father, God Allah, right? It's the first set of writing after the pictures, right? All right. It says, know thyself and thy Father, God Allah. It says, the genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of events, life, works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons are for all those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life, works, and teachings. Let me stop there. How many people in the room are familiar with the Bible? Okay. So we notice in the Bible, if you're familiar with the story of Jesus, they say what? He was born, right? And during the period of time that he was born, one named Herod was trying to kill all the male children because he had received a prophecy that one would be born that would be a threat to his throne. So, okay, no problem. All children who are 2 years old and under, slaughter them. So they went all throughout Palestine just killing babies, right? That period of time, they took Jesus somewhere, and the Bible kind of like disappears. Like Jesus disappears in the Bible at that point, right? He doesn't pop up again in the Bible until he's 12. So there's 12 missing years gone in the Bible, right? He pops up at 12, and that's the section Moore just read, which if that same thing is in the Bible, right? Where he popped in and was debating the doctors of the law in the temple at 12 years old, right? After that, he disappears again. Doesn't pop up again until he's 30. 30, okay? Teaches for 3 years, gets crucified, and I'm not gonna get into the thing whether he died on the cross or not, but he was definitely crucified. He was definitely crucified, we know that, right? So, and then after that, we don't hear any more, other than until you get to Revelations, and that's John having visions of Jesus, okay? So in this Holy Quran, the Moore Science Temple of America that, was compiled by, Noble Drew Ali didn't author it, he compiled it, all right? We know that because he says it was divinely prepared by the Noble Prophet, says that on the cover, right? So through compiling, he took all the things that were taken out, all right, and made secrets. So there's groups on the planet today that hide that history and use it in different forms, okay? But it moves on, it says, dear readers, do not falsely use these lessons. They are for good, peace, and happiness for all those that love Jesus. Dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order and your children will learn to love instead of hate. The lessons of this pamphlet are not for sale, but for the sake of humanity, as I am a prophet and the servant is worthy of his hire, you can receive this pamphlet at expense. The reason why these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed the secrets. And for the first time in ages, these secrets have been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publishing of this pamphlet of 1927 by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And then he goes in to more of a modern day where it says, the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, and Canaanites who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua. Let me stop there. Anybody familiar with that story? The book of Joshua in the Bible? Well, in the latter in Deuteronomy where it talks about Moses gathered the children of Israel, right at the border of the land of Canaan. That was them wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. But he gets them to the border of the land of Canaan, and due to certain things, he couldn't go, but he sent Joshua in. And Joshua and Israelites went into the land of Canaan and waged war with the ancient Canaanites and drove many of them out, right? Prophet Noble Drew Ali tells us that if we pick up, he says, driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In latter years, they formed kingdoms for themselves, formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. So all the northern and later those northwestern kingdoms were established by ones that were, from the region that were known as, as Canaan, and they came into Africa and set up kingdoms after receiving permission from the Pharaoh of Egypt. Why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because when ones tell you that you come from West Africa, we hear this, right? Well, your people from West Africa. Won't I just go back to Africa? You hear this, right? But super non-specific, right? Because Africa is a continent with 54 nations to present day, right? 54 nations. How many languages are in Africa? Anybody know? Thousands, if you include dialects. Thousands. Say again.
Thousands of religions too.
Yeah, there's some main ones, but they break down into small, even down when you get down to the animist type religion where they honor nature as, so if you count all those, it could be well into the thousands. You see what I'm saying? So telling you come from Africa, there's no salvation in that. There's no identity in that, right? Because brothers and sisters that come from Africa are more specific than that. Where are you from? I'm from Senegal. And in fact, I'm Wolof. He'll name his tribe, right? At least that narrows it down. I know what language he speaks, right? If you're Wolof, you're Muslim, but then you have certain traditions, just as Wolofs have, that's different than Arabs. So you have your own specific thing. Now, they were colonized by France, so their business language is French, just like yours is English. You see what I'm saying? But they still kept the language of their forefathers and so on and so forth.
So you would say that you are a descendant from Morocco?
No, yes, but I would have to clarify that. So I said, why are we Moorish American? We said because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America, right? But then the Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, well, what kind of flag is the Moorish? He didn't say the Moroccan. He said Moorish. And the reason why I said that is because in modern reckoning, because again, what people have to remember, people forget migrations. Right? How many people are currently, obviously you live in Atlanta now, how many people are from Atlanta? Oh, we got a bunch of indigenous natives. Okay. I'm from New Jersey. You from where? Pensacola, Florida. Okay. Alabama, correct? Okay. So again, we migrated here. We're immigrants. Yeah. We're immigrants, right? But we migrated here, right? We failed to take, he shakes his head because he has a problem with us immigrants because we bring a bunch of stuff that's not indigenous Atlanta. But we add to the culture, stop it. But anyway, but the reality of it is, it's the same thing, when we read history, right? We think that all people that are in Africa have been where they're from for millions of years, and that's not the case. Due to wars, famine, drought, or if money's just slow. How many people moved to a different area because the money was slow? Very practical, again, nothing deep, very practical reasons. But again, coming back to your question, that's why I had to say that we're not Moroccan, because Moroccan currently, right, is defined by a dynasty that moved into Morocco and been there since the 1600s, right? We were there and in all of those territories, again, back over here, we were there and in a bunch of those territories, right, we were here, all of Northern Africa, Northern Western, right? And we were even in Spain, ruled that for 800 years, right? And many of us ruled the Americas before Columbus and them got here. Millions of us already here, right? Columbus's chronicles talk about that. I think we covered that before. Of when they got here, there was, mosques and so on and so forth, the call to prayer. People wearing turbans, dressed like I'm dressed today, with the exception of the BDU pants and the military boots. But aside from that, dressed in Islamic garb. You know what I'm saying? But that has existed in America before Europeans got here, right? Why are we not told that? Brother Gillo, can you do me a favor? There's a book over there called This Land Is Your Land. Could you grab that for me?
So what is your response to people?
I'm Moorish. Firstly, I'm born in America. Let's start there, right? Ancestrally, thank you. We take them to the various different regions that our forefathers inhabited. And again, it makes no sense to just point out one region, take in consideration migratory patterns and so on and so forth. But I can get you to the region. Right? So what happens is, this is the Olmec statue head. The Olmecs were the ones they're calling Olmecs. This statue head is in Mexico, right? That was built before Europeans got here, right? Now, when you ask Mexicans, if you show a Mexican this, they'll look at you as mi hermano. You're my brother. You know what I'm saying? Because they are familiar with this. You know any Mexicans look like this?
Yeah.
I don't. There's a few. Because we're all over the planet, right?
That's a brother there.
Right, ain't no doubt about it. And if you go to the back of the statue, he has braids coming down the back. Oh yeah, this is a brother through and through, right? But that's what I'm saying. We've been here, right? So all of that, I like to keep it simple. I don't even like to trace it back to Africa too much because they play that game. I'm from, I'll be like, well, I'm from here, because prove I'm not. What you gonna show me to prove I'm? What, you got some slave receipts? They don't. Trust me. You see what I'm saying? So the whole thing is you have to be self-defining. Right? Don't let nobody else define you. That's what Noble Drew Ali was trying to get to us, right?
You also say that
I'm definitely Moorish, right? And but that Moorish means dark skin. That's the ultimate thing with Moorish. So Moorish, there's basically someone bearing melanin.
But they're gonna connect that with Africa, so it's like
that's fine. They can do that. That's fine. But again, in the power of defining, right? Right. So in other words, right, you ever heard of one name, Estevanico? Or they call him Esteban the Moor. Okay. He was one. He was the Moor. He's from Florida. He was one of the ones that laid out the geographic territory that we now know as Florida, right? But he was a Moor. You see what I'm saying? So and then if you get into like Chief Tammany, and if you get into like Sequoia and all these various different ones, who were Moors who were already here. That's a whole nother argument, because you got to remember, because currently we're living in an era of republics, all right? So we know government as republics, right? But in the ancient world, we dealt with empires. And empires took up numerous territories, gobbled up various different nations, right? So what you're talking about the Moorish, because notice in that same area where the Prophet Noble Israeli taught us about the Moorish flag, he also introduced the concept about the Moorish Empire. Right? And the empire, included those regions that the Prophet just mentioned. Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, Tripoli, all of that was a part of that same empire. And all that was considered Moorish.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Would you tell people that you were part of it?
Of course. I mean, that's a part of the heritage and the birthright.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then, I got you more. Then if you go back to a lot of the literature and stuff like that, there's paintings. There's a painting right in the back wall right there on the right-hand wall. That was painted in like 1700s in Morocco. And you can see the features. Now, the interesting part about it, that was painted by a European, right? So what would be his self-interest to lie, to say that the ones in the 1700s in Morocco looked like that? You know what I'm saying? But when you go to, if you go to, Google and just Google, how many people have heard of Orientalist paintings? Heard of this? If you type in Orientalist paintings on Google and go to images, you get thousands of paintings of yourself with turbans on and so forth, but not all of them in Morocco. All of them in the same region, but all of them look alike. All of them got fezzes, turbans, same garments or whatever, because we have a tendency, to dress alike. Just like right now, we run around with sneakers on and t-shirts, and right, because that's American. You see what I'm saying? And that's the American look, an American look, right? But yet under that look, you might still have your own culture. Does this make sense? Okay, Brother Jalil.
Arise, giving highest praise to the great God of Allah, highest honor to the Holy Divine Prophet,
Islam or?
That's Prophet Musa.
Islam.
Key 86. Questionnaire for Moorish children. Says, Negro, a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contains black water.
That's right.
And I know the last time I was here, we talked about, I know Moor was hitting on heavy. The active brother Sheikh. What river was the prophet referring to?
Okay. The river that contains black water, right? It's a river right here, the Rio Negro, right? And the Rio Negro means the Black River. You see what I'm saying? But when Prophet Noble Israeli referred to it as Africa, he was referring to Africa, Northwest Africa, as being over here, not solely just the coast right here. Because again, right? Does that make any sense? If I were to cut this map out, all the continents, right, and fit them together, doesn't this portion here, it looks like it fits right here? Right? And we know that the European even admits something called Pangea, right? Which is really Pangaea. Pan, which means across, and the Greek word Gaia or Gaia, which means earth, or meaning across earth, right? But all of this at one point was, together, right? Now, once you try to push this section together, there'll be a piece about this big that's missing. And that's what you call Atlantis, right? When that sunk, that created the islands you now know as the Caribbean. You see what I'm saying? And there was a section over here known as Lemuria, which sunk and created these islands over here.
So there was a city called Atlantis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And Egypt was the masters from that territory that survived, that came together and saved the sciences and started back building. You know what I'm saying? You actually have more pyramids in, like what you now have, like Sudan area. There's actually more pyramids there than Egypt. You know what I'm saying? Because when they came into Central Africa and they started traveling up the Nile, because it just made sense to our people. Just like here in America, we lived near where the water was, because the water is the source of life, right? So, a lot of times they would plant crops off the banks of let's say the Nile River, off the banks of the Nile. And every year it would inundate or flood at a certain time and naturally water the crops. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the Mississippi River right here. You know what I mean? We use the same exact sciences. Why? Because we're the same exact people on both sides. You see? And Columbus admits When he got over, he saw people that looked just like when he left Spain. Well, what did the people look like in Spain in 1492? Well, who just got finished ruling Spain for 800 years and just happened to get defeated in 1492? The Moors, right? And what these Moors look like? They varied in hue, but they had wavy to woolly hair. We didn't all have thick lips and wide noses, just like we don't now. Some of us have thinner noses and thinner lips, but am I going to say that's any less of a brother or sister because his nose is thinner? No, that's called colorism, and the Europeans started that. We didn't. That's not our game, right? We know that our genetics are just that diverse. All right. Back to the topic of Jesus, real quick. There's a book I literally just ordered. It just arrived today. Please forgive the image. I didn't author the book, but it's called The Islamic Jesus, and it says how the King of the Jews became a prophet of the Muslims. Okay, and this is by Mustafa Akol. He's a Turkish brother. Right? It's I flipped through it. It seems to be a phenomenal book, right? And the thing is that, did you get him? Thing about that is he said he's from Turkey, and he said he was in Turkey in the marketplace, and a Christian walked up to him, and they were just giving out copies of the New Testament. And Turkey, they Muslim, they don't really read the Bible like that. So he dropped the New Testament on them, and he was like, okay. He took it home. He said, let me start reading this. He started reading it. And he was like, wait a minute. He said, now he was grown, but he had never read the Bible. He was like, why am I familiar with all these teachings? Because he's familiar with them because he's been reading the Quran, and the Quran was saying the exact same thing about Jesus as the Bible was. You understand what I'm saying? So it's an excellent book right there for those interested. You could look it up and order it, because I believe in giving people references to research what we're saying and so on and so forth. There's another one too on the Turks. This one's called God's Shadow. Sultan Selim, His Ottoman Empire and the Making of the Modern World. And this is by Alan Mikhail. Last name Mikhail. God's Shadow. Why this is important, this will go into the history of the ones that that Caucasus history we were talking about, because even the Turks come out that same area. They came out that same mountain regions, and thousands of them came out. The only thing was they had adapted Islam, and it organized them better. And they found themselves at odds and going to war with people who are from the same region, but without the light of civilization, so they were at odds. Yes?
I'm doing a lot of research on just that whole area of Pakistan.
Very interesting.
Turkmenistan, Turkey, and all those places. And it's interesting when you look back to their ancestral history, how a lot of them, they did come out the Caucasus, but then you had other folks that still considered Turks that came from Mongolia, came from Central Asia, and just how all the cultures, the languages were different, but they were still similar.
Absolutely.
Like even when you talked about the ones who called themselves Khans, the Turks had their own cognates.
No doubt.
Just like the Mongolians
had their own.
Cognates, and even we get into Georgia,
the country, not the state.
Yeah. Georgia and Armenia, even those people, even though a lot of them was Christians and stuff like that, they still had beys and begs and all these different people. Just that whole, and how a lot of that trickled down into India.
Yeah.
There's Turks in India, and Turks in all over the place. You know what I'm saying? But there's different people that's considered Turks. It's not just one phenotype. They came from all over that whole region. It's very interesting.
There's a saying that they attribute to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It says that loosely, it says that if you try to judge what a man is by looking at him, you're burnt up from the start. Meaning that a lot of times you can't just look at a person and just assume. Like in other words, you look at the average brother from Turkey, right, or the average guy from Turkey, and visually he looks like straight European, right? Until you ask him his culture, and if he see you with a turban on, he might greet you, salam alaikum, right? Peace be upon you, which is not strange, because even in the Bible, Jesus said, when you enter a house, say peace be upon you. I don't know, respectfully, I don't know too many of our Christian brothers and sisters walk into the house, anybody's house, and say peace. It's a couple groups of people on the planet known for saying peace be upon you, and that's the Muslims and our Hebrew brothers, right? And even the Jews have adapted it. Well, assalamu alaikum or shalom alaikum, or even we say Islam as Moorish Americans, which means peace. But the point is that there's been so much amalgamation and mixing and so on and so forth. You can't tell. Just like a lot of times, certain brothers from Africa look at our brothers from here and look at them and think they're looking at a fellow tribesman, because they swear, "Are you well off you?" And then you might walk up to you, start speaking the language. Oh, I'm from Atlanta, from Decatur. You know what I mean? Which that's interesting, right? Another thing, like research the names of the places where you're from, you'll find interesting history. They might know why Decatur is named that. Who that's named after. If you knew, you would not be proud to call it that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a European named Stephen Decatur. You familiar with him? Stephen Decatur was actually the European who helped to overthrow the Moors during the time of Thomas Jefferson. And they named that territory after him. Yeah.
Grady Hospital. All these Grady babies.
Okay, who's the Grady guy?
Grady was a hardcore white supremacist. Grady.
Well, that's no strange happening with this being Confederate territory, former Confederate territory.
That's the same thing with Emory, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
They had a lot of issues with that.
Oh, that actually used to be a slave plantation, where where the Decatur campus is. That was a plantation at one point.
Talk about the Emory Decatur?
Yeah, Emory Decatur. Yeah, it was a slave plantation. Yeah.
And I passed through it all the time.
Yeah, because they would come. They were trying to figure out, should we offer some form of reparations to African American students who attend? Because they are attending on a former plantation. But the very fact that you asked, should we, shows you who you're dealing with, right? Yes, sir.
Concern about books.
Yes.
Because I'm sure probably you're familiar with by now Grandmaster Jay.
Yes.
And he was saying that he had told people to get this book, because they were going over, called The Pale Horse.
Behold the Pale Horse?
Yeah.
By William Cooper?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
And then of course, he had a copy, and then somebody else that he told him to get a copy got one. He said, okay, let me see it. And then he said, well, this copy that you have, the pages look like there's a lot less missing. And so he checked it. He said it's about 65 pages were missing out of his book that he got off of Amazon. He checked his, and his had the full page amounts in it. And then he realized that I think that it was revised.
So what happened is, okay, I'm sorry.
Basically, the reason why I also brought it up was wondering, how are we to know if the book is the original, and everything?
Well, the reality of it is, just as researching any information, right? How do you know truth? You know truth because truth confirms itself, right? So you never just read one book. You know what I'm saying? So, like I have a library. So like, I'll read something here and that's interesting. That'll remind me of something over here. Let me pull this book off and compare the two. And it's a journey. You have to put that work in as far as the study. But there is no one book you're going to pick up that has it all in it. You know what I mean? Relative to revisions and so on and so forth, yes, that's commonplace. As a book publisher, I can tell you that it's not always, like ulterior motive why publishers do that, right? Thicker books are more expensive to print. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it could be a very practical or pragmatic reason why they took certain pages out, because it's too much to print it, right? William Cooper's history, which I don't want to get into conspiracy theories too tough, but he was actually killed for the information he put in that book. You know what I'm saying? So, whatever. But also too, just, the prophet was issuing warnings. Anyone who comes through the Moorish Science of America, if I hear something that's a little off, I like to address it. That particular individual you mentioned, I'm not going to mention his name, you mentioned it already. Be careful, of studying different things from different people, because all you have to do is watch how people move, which will let you know should you be a part of that or not. You know what I'm saying? And, quite frankly, and this is my general opinion, offers no proof of truth, just as Brother Heru at this point. You see people walking around, military gear, assault rifles, all that kind of stuff, marching on, whatever. Not to mention the particular name of his organization, stuff like that. Very agitating. The Prophet Noble Drew, he tells us, I read this at the end of every meeting. He says, I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. He says, stop trying out your cards with the Europeans. The cards are for your salvation, right? So the reality of it is that we got work to do, right? And the work is to win our people's minds back. In the process of doing that, we don't have time for radical contingencies that want to go off. This existed during the time of Jesus, by the way. This is not a new thought. There was a group of people called the Zealots during Jesus' time. Mary Magdalene was actually related to like these people, But while Jesus was like, my kingdom is not of this world, these cats was like, we are by way of the sword willing to overthrow the Romans. You know what I'm saying? So that's existed amongst us, you know what I mean? And the two factions have always kind of like disagreed about, how we should go about it. Right? But the reality of it is right now, we just have too much work to do, because you can't, even arguably, right? If you were to go to war, you have to know who you are and know why you're going to war. See what I'm saying? You can't just go to war. Like all nations that do that go to war, they have a political ideology, right? Which means they're unified in their political thought, right? What is the unified political thought of our people? Right now we got the election coming up, right? And they're throwing out there Biden versus Trump.
Oh, you talking about?
And we ain't gonna do that tonight because I don't have enough time. Definitely not gonna do that. But what I'm saying is that where are our people at on that?
Like the people like to be Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, we're all over the place. You see what I'm saying? You know, I've heard, believe it or not, I've heard a few, people that look like us that's hardline Republicans, and stand on that. They're voting for Trump, no doubt about it, whatever. I mean, and that's their privilege as American citizens. So I'm not here to, because again, right, at the end of the day, you can tell me anything, but when you go in that booth, you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell people watch European liberals. Oh yeah, we're with you. They get in that booth. Trump. You know what I'm saying? And but I say vote your conscience. That's because at this point it is what it is, because we were supposed to have done work prior to this, so we'd all be voting one way. But since we haven't done that work, vote your conscience. You know what I'm saying? Until in the meantime, we still have to get back to doing the work. You know what I mean? But see, key to knowing who you are, you can't do anything politically or economically unless you know who you are. Right? We were talking Sunday school, when we ended Sunday school. One of our visitors came out, was Brother Brian Gaither, who's an attorney, good friend of our temple. And he does a lot of good work in around the city and stuff like that. And he was just talking about, like you see like the little boys selling the water on the corner. Well, the city of Atlanta was like, kind of arguing and debating as to whether they should get rid of them or not, like, enforce on them because they don't have vending licenses and all this kind of stuff or whatever. So that was the point, right? So we were having that conversation. He was too, with the government, right? I met two little young men today. They came in and got haircuts. And, one of them was carrying a cooler, yeah? So very respectful. He said, excuse me, sir, may I put my cooler inside? I don't want anybody to steal my water. I said, no problem. He's going to park it right on the inside. So, we got to talking and, he was like, what's your name? So he was like 10. So I was like, Mr. Heru. He's like, you didn't have to say Mr. because the way I was raised, I was going to call you Mr. anyway. I said, well, praise Allah. Okay. That's all right, brother. You know what I'm saying? And we got to talking. And so he's looking around. He's like, what's your religion? I said, I'm a Muslim. He said, so am I. Assalamu alaikum. I said, well, Islam, brother. Hey, beautiful, right? But what I'm saying is like, the point is like, these young brothers are, they're not selling drugs. They're not robbing nobody. They're, trying to do something industrious. That's the seed of an entrepreneur, right? But now, what political community can pull that in, right? And say, brother, I like what you're doing. Let's extend that a little further. What's your goals? What's your dream? What do you want to do? Because we want to support you. And not just, because Noble Drew Ali says, Allah lives not in the noise of tongues. So it's about what we say, but what are we going to do to set this child's future up? Because he might not have the necessarily infrastructure at home, right? So, I mean, because, it's beautiful if you have a big, strong, tight family. That's beautiful. But what about the orphans? What about the guy that grew up with no father? You know what I'm saying? Or mother. Doesn't know his uncles, aunts, cousins, none of it. What about that person? What institutions are established for those people? You see? Yes, sir.
Well, in regards to our community, because even I've tried to speak to our youth in regards to the appropriate way to go about it, the governmental side, like the vending license, like that. But how can you speak to them that brings some type of awareness that what you're saying has some type of validity to it? Because I've talked to them and it's like one ear out the other, and it's not necessarily need to be done, but you got people just like cops that the bad outweigh the good, so now you having to have that talk with that lawyer in the state to try to bring some type of consensus.
Right.
So where do we, as our community in the whole, whether you classify as more or not, to bring everyone together on one page? Well,
relative to the, because you hit 2 points, but in the earlier point, you're talking about the children and what, what is it going to take? Well, you have to ask yourself, well, what is it they respect? You know what I mean? Like, in other words, it's like, you have to show them something powerful, a unified body that's powerful enough that it'll make them look twice. Like, what's that? You know what I'm saying? And it has to be consistent. You can't just come through the block unified and teaching all kinds of stuff, whatever, and then you're not back out there tomorrow or the following week. It has to be, whatever work you start has to be consistent. Much of the people, that I'll give an example this week. So it was a brother that came through, a homeless brother, And he came through, and his lady friend needed a haircut. So I'm a barber by trade, so he came through and was like, excuse me, brother. He said, I hate to ask you like this, brother. You know, us some pride. No matter what level of life we're on, we got that pride, right? He's like, I hate to ask you, but my lady friend needs a haircut. I said, I don't have no money. I told her I'll find a way, whatever. I said, brother, you ain't got to do all that. Tell the sister, come on, I'll be here for the next couple hours. You know what I'm saying? So he came through, they came through, he told her, that's the brother right there, I cut her hair. She said, thank you, they left. But that was actually a few weeks ago. So the other day I'm closing up, and as I'm closing up, I'm sweeping the floor and everything, and I look at the window, there's somebody cleaning my windows. I'm like, what the world's going on? So I go out, I said, brother, what are you doing? He said, and I looked at him, I said, oh yeah, you brother from a couple weeks ago. He said, I said, brother, you don't have to do that. No, brother, I have to do something because you didn't have to do what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what you have to do is you have to win the hearts of the people. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard this thing of, remember Muhammad Ali? Remember to strip this title? Remember that? I don't know, you look kind of young. You can Google it. Praise Allah for YouTube, right? But the reality of it is when they stripped this title, they were asking questions like, how does it feel not to be the champ no more? He said, I don't care nothing about that as long as I'm the people's champ. That's right. Yeah. That's all that matters, right? So, a lot of times we look for things in the wrong directions. Like if you win the love of your people, you know what I'm saying? That's all that really matters. And then they'll know who to come to when things go bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there was a situation, Allah forbid, saying somebody's life taken, at the hands of the police or whatever, right? You don't want that to break out into a riotous situation because in a riot, nobody wins. Anarchy is in no one's best interest, right? You want some form of government all the way through, right? So when something, goes down, you want people to be able to come to you and be like, brothers, what are we going to do? And you got to have something in place for that, right? But again, that goes back by winning the love. And it's a lot, Moorish Science Temple of America is one of those groups, right? There's a bunch of different groups doing good work, but now we have to unify the groups. My brother right here, he's a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and he's the president of an organization called New Era Atlanta. No conflict in being both. You understand what I'm saying? You could have different affiliations and still do the work. You know what I mean? Because these days, that's almost what it'll take. You know what I mean? So that's the main thing. So, and then, right, that's phase, those are the initial phases. Then you take that unified effort and then you go to government in one voice, not a multiplicity of voices and opinions, but in one voice. That means in certain council sessions between these different groups, there's an agenda, there are some things that are agreed on, and there's an agenda that's established, and that agenda is presented. You understand what I'm saying? That's the way it has to go because that's what government is. You go to a city council meeting, that's all it is. You know what I mean? Like I use the example all the time. Like the Moors never liked when I said this, but it's true. When I said that the LGBTQ community had more unity than the Moors. Yes. I said because they all got together and agreed on a flag. Yes. Starting there, because if you can come together and agree on that, because no matter where you go relative to that movement, which that's not one movement, that's like 5-6 different movements that merged. That's not easy, because different agendas, but they came together and merged. You see what I'm saying? And they fly that one flag or banner. It's a banner. It's a different thing. But they fly one banner as a representation of the unified ideal, and that is a global thought. Because if you go to France, they fly in that same flag. You go to Germany, they fly in the same flag. Come to America, they fly in the same flag. See what I'm saying? So there's a lot of work going on that we don't see, right? And those, that's the type of thing. So we have these public meetings in Moorish Science Temple of America, and we have private meetings. You know what I'm saying? Where we're working out things, how to work together politically, and so on and so forth. You see? So, that's the best way. And if you'd like to be a part of that, by all means, just let us know. At the end of the meeting, we'll see what, see what your background is, your affiliations. You might be the one with all the answer to all our problems, brother. Up here burning my vocal cords out, nothing. It might be about you. You never know.
It's always meant as one. We may have different ideas or ideologies, but at the end of the day, it's about reclaiming who you are and reclaiming your nation, every member. And so,
Noble Drew said, custom alters not the nature of truth. So regardless of what your individual customs are, you know what I'm saying? Truth is still truth. You know what I mean? And the reality of it is we have to survive. We have to stop certain things in our community, so on and so forth. Brother Jalil, Islam.
I got a real funny story about those water boys. Last year when I was working at the water, we were in the West End. Job that we were working on, we have a cooler full of water. So I noticed all that day, a group of little 10-year-old, 12-year-old boy, they was just...
Oh, they plotting on the cooler?
Yeah, plotting the whole time. And so we weren't even think about it because we normally just leave it out. We come back.
They got you.
gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, these legit, they done took all the stuff, man.
Yeah.
So tell me how the next day we come back and they brought it back.
They did?
They brought it
Oh,
back.
that's what's up. Okay.
I'm like, these some honorable kids right here.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
stole it.
yeah.
They could have asked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the fact they brought
You never
it
know
back,
how it came
I'm
back.
like, this is.
But even the thought of stealing it, right? See, when you put a person in survival mode, right? You know, there's a level of life beyond survival. Most of us never even meet that, right? But if you're in survival mode, you start thinking raw capitalism, right? So raw capitalism is like this. It's like, okay, I could, you know, I don't have any money, but I need to make some money, right? So you start thinking, okay, well, I see everybody selling waters, they're making waters. I mean, they're making good money selling the waters. There's a cooler of waters right there. Now, if I steal that cooler of water and I sell them, that's pure profit because there was no investment. That's raw capitalism. But to do that is immoral because it's like it's theft, right? So that's your lower self doing all the thinking, right? You know?
You forget about your
Right. But see, that's the paradox we find ourselves in. You know what I mean? Because the person that says he wants to sell the water, he's not lazy, obviously, because he don't mind doing the labor. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, he doesn't have anybody funding him either. You know what I mean? So that creates, you know, a bad situation for a person to be in. You know what I mean? So that, you know, we just have to be more industrious, man, so that way we can stop our people from going to their lower self, because there's no salvation in that stuff. You know, we used to go into prisons years ago and teach the brothers that were inside of there, man. It's like, you know, through talking to them, it's like their main regret is like, if I could have just thought about 10 more seconds, I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't be in here. You know what I'm saying? People whose mothers have died, but they wouldn't let them out to go see their mothers because they're in prison. Stuff like this. You see what I'm saying? You know, so we have to be there to save, you know, save our people from these type of things. You know what I mean? Does anybody have any questions?
You got me. Because I was going to piggyback off what you said.
Camelback. Get off the back of the pig. It's just something we say.
But,
No force.
It was in regards to our nationality.
Yes, sir.
And reclaiming our roots and where it goes back to. Because I listen to a lot of different channels. Not necessarily television. I don't watch television.
I get it.
Some people I've noticed stop and say, "Oh, we're just indigenous," and so then that's all you hear.
We just talked about that. Yeah.
And, you know that you're Native American.
Yeah.
But then, how do you go and retrace your steps back to where you come from across the water? Because we all know we come from that side. But you know, it's just like, do we stop? Because you said, like you said, it'll burn you out. And I didn't think of that until you said it. And I'm like, well, everything he just said. And then I was thinking, I was like, okay, I just burnt myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to formulate a scenario or a statement to try to figure that out myself.
And if I may, that's what creates a sense of hopelessness in our people, because it's like you get to Africa with all those multiplicity of tribes, it's like you get lost in that. It's like Pandora's box. And our people just give up. It's a lot easier being black. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not easy being black.
No, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Respectfully, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, again, there's no salvation there. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, if you don't like Moorish American, fine, but you better find some identity to refer to yourself as that's respected and organize around that. You know what I mean? Because the reality of it is that, you know, to be the only people on the block without a nationality, when everyone, like, we might not like the Arabs and the Indians in our community and so on and so forth, right? But they come here because we don't know what to do with our money. They're told to come here, go there. They have certain zip codes. No, you want to open your business over there. But the crime rate, don't worry about that. We'll give extra police presence. We'll back you up, but go get that money. You see what I'm saying? And we go support them. We complain the whole way. Oh, I don't like the treatment. I don't like this and that, whatever. Well, why don't you organize and open your own store? Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, I use an example all the time. I knew a family, an Indian family that came down from Duluth. If you're familiar with Georgia, you know how far Duluth is. All the way to Cleveland Avenue, right up the street here, to run a Subway. Now, they got robbed every other week and this, that, whatever, but they made enough money to send their son full ride to Georgia State. Like, they didn't go get a loan. They said, how much is 4 years? Here's the check. We paid for that. So all this, we broke. Oh, we ain't got no money. You're a lie. Stop that. What was that? The devil's a lie that you said earlier? You got money, you just don't know what to do with it. And you weaken your dollar because you're not unified.
That's a whole other story.
But value is what you put on it.
True.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't care if we, the medium, because all the dollar is a medium of exchange, right? I wouldn't care if the medium of exchange was big pens. If we had we need 3 truckloads of big pens to trade them to get what we need to get. That's the reality of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't ever want us to adopt the mentality that money is not important. Ever. Because money is just what you agree to accept or trade. You understand what I'm saying? Like in Nigeria, and when, before they organized as Nigeria, it was Yoruba land. And in Yoruba land, at one point, everybody familiar with cowrie shells? You've seen this before? Sisters put them in their hair to decorate. That actually was a mode of currency in Nigeria at one point. So they were agreeing to accept shells, not even gold or silver, shells, right? Because that's an agreement they made amongst themselves. Free people can do that. It's power to define. You see what I'm saying? The Moore right here does a great demonstration on digital currencies, crypto and all that kind of stuff, whatever. And you can feel whatever because it's all zeros and ones or however, whatever. But it's a medium of exchange. And it's a whole nother language and a whole nother world, whole nother possibilities. You know what I'm saying? To set our people higher where we need to be at. Depends on your approach of it or whatever, but certain things you can't stop because this is just where the way the world is going. And we find ourselves, I don't argue with nobody that has a different thought on identity as long as they're willing to work together.
Bitcoin.
He's the
Blockchain.
Yeah, he's the one for that. I'm not. Yeah. Now you go into a language I don't speak. I have no problem saying I don't know. Them the most powerful words I ever found. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So something I run into often is, and even within my own organization, like you try to explain the importance of nationality, but it's like, man, all that don't matter, man. At the end of the day, we're lacking. We gotta have a common ground. All that does is divide. But then I try to explain to them, it's not necessarily about division, but it's about being recognized. It's about not being like a lot of people look at it as, well, you're trying to accept. It's like, no, we have to accept ourselves. But when you look at the rest of the world, like literally the whole world operates one way, but we don't. We don't really have no true culture. Oh yes, we do hip hop and rap and twerk. It's like, nah, man. Like, I get it for unity state. Most people just want to be considered black, but we have to go beyond that. It's like it's a hard resistance against that because it's like we're trying to, in their eyes, we're trying to separate and be different instead of trying to unify all our people together. Like, how do you maneuver around that?
Look at this. My brother right here invoked a thought. The individual, that's running around with a group of military-looking people. You know what I'm talking about, right? How did he catch? You see how he caught our people's attention? Everybody's like, "Who's that?" Right? The reason why he caught our people's attention was because how it looked. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So the key thing is, say like as Moors, and this is something I admit, as I've been Moorish American, proclaimed in the Moorish Science Movement for 19 years. The thing I could say that is our national flaw is that we have a tendency, because of what we've learned, to browbeat our people. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like when people see affairs now, sometimes in certain segments of the society, it's not welcome. It's like, oh, here they go again. Okay, I know everything you're about to say within the next 10 minutes. You're not black, you're not Negro, you don't have a language, you don't have a, telling everything about everything that they're not, but not offering anything of equal or greater value. You know what I mean? So it's almost like we're gonna have to show people what we're talking about as opposed to telling. So if we talk about building communities, we have to get to work to build a community. Well, what does it take to build a community? You need people to honor their word. You need accountability, right? In the ancient world, the method was, or the teaching was, my word is my bond is my life, and I will give my life before my word shall fail. That's how it all went. That's the whole phrase. But conveniently, people didn't like that last part about giving your life because you broke your word. So they just started saying word is bond.
It's the same thing.
It is, but how do you enforce if you break it? Not saying that, we ain't not trying to enforce that, no, that's not what I'm saying, metaphorically, right? What I'm saying is that it should be an accountability that if you say you're gonna be somewhere, you should be there, and if you're late, I should be able to come to you and be like, brother, you hurt me. You said you were gonna be something, and we were depending on you, brother, and you weren't there. Can you come before us? I'm gonna sit down, you come before us, and let us know why you let the group down. You know what I'm saying? Or if we come together and say, brother comes before the group and says, I'm making socks, or I sell socks wholesale. I'd like everybody to buy socks from me. Okay, we're gonna agree, everybody buys socks from, but if I catch Brother Quillen going to Walmart, coming out with a bag of socks, I'm supposed to be like, Brother Quillen, Next meeting, brother, we have a conversation with you, brother. What? Why didn't you buy from the brother? This is your brother. Walmart is not appreciating your dollar more than your brother would. You see what I'm saying? So again, using those small examples is stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to actually start get back to showing it. And first, we gotta, what we say we're a part of, we have to honor it first. See, the thing is, you must be recognized by the nation in which you live, then the nations of the earth. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't recognize each other, we're not honoring. Like I was in the back on post. I heard my sister clearing her throat. Whatever, trying to get it together. It would be other than brotherly for me to not offer her water. That's like simple, And she was like, "Thank you, thank you." That's all well, sis, but this is what we're supposed to do. You understand what I'm saying?
So even on his, how do you get past the people who will not acknowledge you? Because I understand that they're even teaching.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Because you good for dropping about 3 or 4 questions. Sounding like one question.
No, it was just one.
But the way it is, first of all, you got to remember, let's do it like this. You ever heard of the Pentagon before? Pentagon, so you have all the branches of the military in that one building, right? So let's say they're about to wage a war, right? In their strategizing in the war rooms, right? They admit that there'll be a certain percentage of the population they're about to attack. There's going to be collateral damage, meaning that when we bomb, we don't mean to hit a school, but so it might be about 10% of like public schools going to be wiped out. In nation building, you gotta factor in, right? You're gonna have some people they might come, but they're gonna be kicking and dragging and creating problems, and right, because of what was done to us, right? There's gonna be some that's not gonna come, and you gotta understand that, and you gotta be all right with that, right? It's gonna hurt because we want all our people to come,
Yeah.
but that's not reality. You know what I'm saying? Like how many? Okay, this is the United States of America, right? What percentage of the population would you say doesn't even consider themselves American?
It's about 39%.
Right? But will benefit from government. Okay, there's a hole in the street. Oh, they need to come and fix this, blah, 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 blah. And then, the public works comes and they fill the hole. Right? Well, there's a process behind how that hole got filled. Right? And that's government, what costs tax dollars, of which even the person that says they're not American pays the taxes. So, like my brother Sharif Anel Bay says, I'm gonna read my brother because it's gonna be on the internet. He said, the equivalent of that is, imagine going to Kroger, you shop, put all your stuff in your cart, you get up to the line, you put all your stuff on the conveyor belt, they charge you, you run your card, pay for it, you leave all the items right there and walk out. That's what paying your taxes is and not getting benefits back from it. I'm not an American, but you pay tax. Well, I don't pay tax. Well, you got gas. You use gas? Yeah. The taxes are factored into the price of the gas. You know that, right?
It's factored to the food.
It's factored in everything. But you're not directing the course of the tax money to virtue. Right? So that's citizenship 101. You know who learns that? Foreigners, when they first come here. They learn the entire mode of government, how to work it. That's why they end up being better citizens than you. Because A, they have a nationality, and B, they know how to work it. They know how to respect the laws of the land in which they live and to work it for their group's benefit. Right? So again, regardless of what you want to call yourself, you're still affected by certain things. Now, if you don't take responsibility for that, then you're not an adult. You're a minor, which while other people love calling themselves minorities. So again, not deep, very simple. Yeah.
Conflicts with that, as we all may know, people that look like us they say, well, like we can say we Americans, and they may say that we are American, but our people, they're not treating us as though we are Americans, and that's why a lot of people that are Moorish and Asiatic, they don't like to say that because of that reason. So what would you say to that?
Again, it's all about your level of organization and what you're willing to accomplish. You know what I mean?
People said the Constitution wasn't even written for Moorish Americans or Asiatics because they're not abiding us by the Constitution.
People said George Washington had wood teeth too. People say a lot of things. You know what I mean? But the reality of it, I'm not being smart. I'm just saying, we have a teaching that says man learns naught, which means nothing, by being told. If he would know, he must instead be what he knows, right? So in that respect, it's like we have to be willing to trace our own thing. Like, do a research on when the Irish first arrived in America and see what happened to them. They were called all kind of stuff, but what happens is they were able to pass a little bit because they looked like the dominant group at the time. You see what I'm saying? So again, like the prophet says, every nation suffered slavery, but our problem is we like to dwell there. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't see an alternative. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be an alternative to it, because again, Jews went through the Holocaust, but they don't stay in a Holocaust mentality. They just like to remind everybody they went through it. But still, they went out and built communities and synagogues and schools and all kinds of stuff and kept going. Oh man, put together a whole machine. You better not say nothing about them. And the LGBT is the next step. They might be stronger than the Jews right now. Say something about them jokers if you want to. It's a hate crime. It's a federal crime. Like, if you get, like, look, I tell young brothers all the time in my barbershop, look, if you ever get in a fight with one of them jokers, which you shouldn't, because you should be in your higher stuff, right? If you ever get in a fight with one of them, don't ever use those words, those derogatory words to describe them, you know what I'm saying? Because that's an extra 15 years. Because then it's a hate crime. See what I'm saying? But the N word is still legal, huh? Uh-huh. Now whose fault is that?
Our fault.
Huh? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So we have work to do organizing as a political community. Everybody else does that work. You know, we have to just do that work. But key to it is knowing who you are. Oh yeah, that's one of them deep sciences, but not really so, because it's just the root meaning of words, the essence. Because really, understanding that, I agree with you. I have no problem. But at the same time, it's like you have to realize there's a layman's English, and there's there's some of my Moorish brothers try to speak in legal terms at all times, and it sounds retarded. Respectfully. So we don't. You know what I'm saying? You know, oh, this is not my car. This is my conveyance, and I'm navigating in my conveyance. But you sound crazy. You sound crazy. You sound crazy. And you're going to turn people off. What is he talking about?
You try to condition yourself, though, so that you are in, your proper perspective of what you're trying to do.
Well, you know how you do that?
But I get what you're saying, though. It does sound funny.
Get you a lawyer. That's how you do it. Noble Drew Ali had a lawyer. Stop trying to look. Lawyers have a phrase that say, "He who defends himself has a fool for a client."
That's right.
Reflect on that for a little bit. Exactly. Brother Quillett.
So I wanted the camel back up something that was
Please.
said earlier.
Well, we riding this camel. Go ahead.
The camel on the legs that you broke.
Yes, sir. He's done. It is finished.
Why is it so hard for us to be able to get certain stuff like how other nations may come in, like the beauty supply stores or certain businesses that they are able to run, and they are having their people that are part of their culture be a part of their business, and also like.
Can I take that one first? You're younger than I am. I forgot the first part of the question. Let me take that first.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you an example of somebody I personally knew. So it was a Korean couple I knew that ran a beauty supply, right? Now, it was a couple. The lady was Korean, the guy was brother, and they wanted to open another beauty supply. So she said, they was trying to get loans and stuff, and it wouldn't work. So she said, well, you know what? Let's try this. Let's take a ride with me. So, all right. So they rode up to Buford Highway, and it was one of the particular restaurants up there. They went in, Korean restaurant. You go up there, all the writing is in Korean. You can't even read it. Go in, some elders sitting at a table, old Korean people. So she said, you sit here, let me go talk to them real quick. So he said, okay. So he sat down, she went over to the table, respectfully started talking to them in their language, right? And then they sat there, were listening. So, okay, tell them to come over. So he came over. So they told her, you be quiet. They looked at him, said, explain to us what you want to open. So he was running down, okay, I want to open this and whatever. He said, how much do you need? He said, about 60,000. No, we didn't ask you about. How much do you need? He said, 60,000. They looked at each other. We'll be right back. They went in the back room, they were back there for a while, right? Came out with a briefcase, okay? Sat it down on the table, opened it up, it was the money, right? Now I don't even want to get into, they just had that in the back room. This is what it is, right? So they sat down and said, can we hold you at your word that at the time that you agreed upon to return this money back, because they didn't even want interest, that to return the money back, that you will. They said yes. They stuck their hand out like that. They pressed hands, gave them the briefcase, and it went on. See, there's a lot of us, and there's a lot of people in our communities. We have wealthy people in our communities, very wealthy people in our communities. But is there any accountability in terms of how much they invested back into our community? See, we look at salvation insofar as going to the bank and getting a loan, going to a foreigner. Like, how many people familiar with the phrase that says, train up a child in the way that she go, so he will not depart from it. Y'all heard that, right, in the Bible? But have you ever read the next verse? The next verse says, the borrower is slave to the lender, right? So if you get accustomed to this thing of, well, I got to go to a bank to get a loan, right? Let's say you get a 30-year mortgage and you pay, how many years are you paying the interest alone? You know what I'm saying?
20.
Say again?
About 20 years.
About 20 years, right? Islamically, we're not permitted to do that really. You know what I'm saying? Because that, and you know, there's a term called riba in Arabic, which means like an exorbitant form of interest. That's slavery, basically, right? So we're not really permitted to sign up for that level of slavery. We're supposed to be industrious enough amongst our own selves, right, to fund anything we're trying to do. But if you're not organized, you won't be able to do it. That's the key. So that's why the main thing is unity. That's why Marcus Garvey was so successful. His main thing was unity of the race, no matter where we are on earth. You see? So until we have that, we're still going to be talking about the same stuff 20 years from now. You know, I'm quite sure my elder right here can go back to some times in his day when he was our age and talk about some of these similar aspects to the conversation we're having now. We were having those conversations back then. It's a circle. You know, at some point we got to break the cycle and actually do something that's effective, right? And you know, that has to be generational. So if we start off and we take over this side of the street, you know what I'm saying? By the time, if that's all we're able to do in this lifetime, we're supposed to be able to pass it on to the next generation who takes over the other side of the street.
So people feel like it's maybe a conspiracy, but it may not always be that. It may just be ourselves.
Most of it is us. Most of it's us.
Not just like somebody trying to intentionally keeping us down.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. Like they are killing people in the streets. Europeans have lynched people around the country and they're still doing it. You know, there's pushback from Europeans. I'm not letting them off the hook. You know what I mean? But they are not the primary reason we're not where we're supposed to be right now. You know what I mean? As long as we're still buying $200 sneakers, no, he's not the reason why. You know what I mean? As long as we saw, you know, when you understand that it cost maybe about $4 to make that sneaker in China. You understand what I'm saying? You know, so it's a whole mode of thought. We have to change our entire mode of thought, which is the political reorientation process that we have to go through. Brother?
So, going off of that, how do we remove that self want type of thing?
Define self-want.
I had it formulated.
Take time.
That greed of for self. Because you said like people in our own neighborhood who have wealth, but you'll never see it because they don't bring back into the community. How can we, as a group, remove that through through whatever teachings we have to try to mold that and remove that I from that so we can get into unity.
You first have to teach a person about that portion of themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, how many selves do you have?
2.
Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
You see? And then you have to know the attributes of each self. You know what I mean? Most people don't know that. Most people don't even know, like, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a weird exercise to do at home. It's simple though, none deep. Tomorrow or tonight, let's say tomorrow morning, when you get up and wash your face in the morning, I hope you all wash your face in the morning, right? When you wash your face in the morning, just sit still and just look at your eyes. Just stare at your eyes, you know, for 2 minutes. Non-stop. Just look at yourself in the mirror. If you're relaxed enough, you'll feel yourself looking through your eyes. Y'all stay with me? Yeah. So sit back and relax. You stare in the mirror, right? And just, you know, try not to. It's hard because to not think of nothing is almost impossible. But just try to think as least few things as possible. Yeah, it's a form of meditation, right? And just look in your own eyes, right? And after a while, you'll feel a presence in you looking out through your body, through your own eyeballs. Because again, we have a teaching that says, man is not the body nor the soul, he is the spirit and part of Allah. So the true you is the spirit that's fueling the vehicle. This is a vehicle, right? So we have people that say, I don't like him because he got a long ponytail with waves in the front. You know what I'm saying? You know, but that's not even you. That's the vehicle you chose to use. You understand what I'm saying? So now, if I can get you to understand that, then that means anything that you acquire physically is measured up by time. There's a time that you didn't have it, there's a time that you acquired it, there's a time that you won't have it anymore. Right? If you can get a person to understand that basic premise, which that sounds simple, there's actually a process that goes to that. But if you get a person to be willing to go through that process and graduate from it, you can see them graduate to the next level in terms of knowing what's really needed and what's not needed. Or knowing that we're taught in all the world is only 2 things, truth and falsehood. Falsehood is that which seems to be, and truth is that which changes not. right? So if we can get people to understand those two simple things, right? And all again, like the more start off with the knowledge of yourself. You see? So you can't conquer the world if you don't know who you are. That's everything we said tonight boils down to that point, right? So the question is, who are you? Rhetorical, okay? I appreciate that. I can appreciate that, right? But that's the journey. My sister, you have to ask yourself, who am I? If you take nothing, if you go home tonight. If you didn't take anything from what we talked about, we want you to take away, who am I? Right? And just embark on that journey to find out who you are, because that'll be important to you. And once you master that, it'll be a blessing to the group, or any group, work, home, whatever, right? Because you're a confident woman that knows who she is, and that means you know what you're worth. That's a big thing too. How many people work jobs, right? How many people know what you're worth? Do you know what you're worth? You know what you're worth? Are they paying you what you're worth? They are? Praise the Lord. All right. Most of our people don't know what we're worth. So we'll take anything. Crumbs. And you better, because once they see you'll take crumbs, that's all you're going to get.
Union.
Oh, you're union labor. Okay, Islam. That's unity though. See? Union is.
That's deep.
No, that is right there. It's right in front of your face. It ain't deep. Trying to get our people out of that.
I'm glad you said that, Ranesi, because I remember I was working at a job 3 years ago, PG Payments, and I'm not his name, but one of the people who was interviewing me, he had said that don't put the lowest wage on here just so that you can be in.
Right, to get in.
He said, put a few dollars more, because if you put that, they may
You lock yourself into that.
You know, instead of you getting the opportunity to be able to make more, and I did, and they gave me a couple dollars more.
Islam.
What I asked for.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very important.
Yeah, but it comes with self-identity though. You have to know, you know what I mean? And the reality is that, you're not really trying to, when you work in a job, you're going there for a purpose. You're not stepping up on a slave auction block, and that's most of our approaches when we go into the job market. You know what I'm saying? We actually like selling ourselves to the highest bidder or any bidder for that matter. You know what I mean? So that's something we have to correct, But with that, we're gonna move on to some work that we're called to do by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We have an individual amongst us tonight that says he wants to proclaim his nationality. Brother Quillen, you ready, bro?
I am.
Okay, Islam, brother, you mind standing right in front of us right here? Okay. Now, if you could, similar to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, if you just hold your feet at a 45-degree angle, your heels will be touching. Place your right hand over your heart. Your left hand is just dropped to your side. Okay. I'm gonna brag on you for a little bit. First of all, thank you for raising this young man right here.
Okay.
Thank you very much, because without knowing you, through meeting him, I know he came from good stock.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Because of how respectful and upright he is and has always been from the time that I've known him. Always been respectful, always, so much so that it's a rarity in these days to find young men like this.
Oh yeah.
So I have to give honors to you for producing such a thought manifested. So thank you very much. All right. Brother Quillen, I met our brother at a Unity conference in College Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the Brady Center.
Yes. And the brother shared a piece of poetry. I couldn't miss him because he had an afro, but it's this big. Big old afro. Who's the brother with the afro? And he got up there and blessed us with a poem, And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. And unbeknownst to me, one of our brothers, as we were leaving, gave you the phone number or something to the temple.
Gave me a Moorish card.
Card, okay. Brother Jabari, correct?
Right.
Okay. And, I didn't know he gave him the card. Next thing I know, I think you either called me or came to a meeting or something.
I came to the
Came to the meeting first, and then we started.
and I had his number.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I met you at the temple.
And then we exchanged numbers, and then we started talking, And he always expressed interest in, the Moorish Science Temple of America, what we were about, we always try to give him the best presentation that we could possibly give, again, not being deep, but just being, just the essence of the foundation of the movement. So what we're going to do is I'm going to read through, 2 acts of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, which are Acts 6 and 7, which are specifically towards membership. And I'll read through the nationality card, which he'll be receiving tonight, which will denote membership in the Moorish Science Temple of America. And after that point, I'll even discuss a little bit more about membership. Islam? Praise Allah. All right? Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and the divine creed, that they may know that they are part and a partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites whom inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband, take care of your children, look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of uplifting a fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Now, there's several key elements in there, and none of which is anything more than what we've spoken on, already spoken on tonight. Again, proclaiming your nationality is what we're doing tonight, right? And the teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. All the topics we cover tonight are designed to prepare you, all right, to get you, in a position where when you speak to other ones of our people, right, you can draw from a wealth of history and be able to line it up, all right, no matter the clan or tribes that we come from, all right? Because if the key thing is unity, we have to be able to speak intelligently, in various different realms of study. So it do no good for you to just study what you want to study, right? If you want to help to save your people and help to raise them up, you have to study what they study as well, right? And know how to sync that up with what you're saying, and then learning how to teach them about character and unfolding to be better men and women. The other part's relative to the husband aspect. I know you're not married yet, but prayerfully you will be one day, because as Muslims, we teach that marriage is half of your faith, all right? So it's something that we know as men, is that as a man, there's certain aspects of yourself you don't use until you get married. I give you an example right now. My wife just had a medical surgery like 2 days ago. So, I thought I knew, how much she did around the house until that 24 hours when she wasn't there. And I was like, wait a minute, she got to come back here. This woman is needed in this household, you know what I mean? And you get to realize, and even helping her to get well and so on and so forth, like, I tap into, as a husband, I tap into things in myself that I didn't tap into when I was single, in terms of caring, sacrifice, so on and so forth. The aspect where it says, sons and daughters must obey father and mother. We enforce that. Honor your father, honor your mother, that your days will be longer upon the earth land that the Lord thy God, Allah, has given you. All right? And, summing up, this is a divine covenant, from our holy prophet, noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. We believe that noble Jew Ali is a true and divine prophet of Allah who came to redeem our people back from the trauma that we had gone through. All right? So we seek to make better men and women. So we'll be, more integral in uplifting society as a whole. All right? A symbol of that is the nationality card. All right. On the nationality code, what I do is I explain the emblems, then I'll read it, and at the bottom there's just 2 lines. I'll just ask you, please repeat after me, and then you repeat what I repeat. Okay. So we have the star and crescent. We have the hand press, which some would say the handshake, but boys don't shake hands, we press hands. And we have the circle 7. The star and crescent, under that we have the word Islam, which means peace. Over the hand press is the word unity. We have what's called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nations. And in that it says, if thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So, the hand press is a symbol of wherever you see your brother and sister in trouble, it's your obligation to assist, if they're willing to be assisted. Right? Next, we have the circle and the 7. The circle is the perfect emblem for man and woman because it's complete. And the number 7 is the number that actually represents perfection. All right? And this card will be issued to Brother Quillen Crenshaw-El. Right? And the word "Il" is one of the names of God. All right? One of the names of the Creator. And it means mighty one. Right? It says, this is your nationality and identification for the Moorish Science Temple of America and birthrights for Moorish Americans, etc. We honor all of the divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. May the blessings of the God of our Father Allah be upon you that carry this card. I do hereby declare that you are a Muslim under the divine laws of the Holy Quran of Mecca, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please repeat after me. I am a citizen
I am a citizen
of the USA,
of the USA,
Noble Drew Ali,
Noble Drew Ali,
the Prophet.
the Prophet.
Takbir!
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir!
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir!
Allahu Akbar.
What that simply means is, who is the greatest? God is the greatest. All right? Everybody give our brother a round of applause. And we're giving you a round of applause because it's the rare human being that wants to volunteer to assist to change the condition of their people. And with that, I'll be the first to press your hand, brother. Again, don't shake, press. And again, Moors know each other by how we greet one another, okay? So the thumbs are always straight, representing a particular line that unites divinity and matter, okay? And it's not a shake, but it's a firm press, denoting a firm foundation, right? Just like that pillar over there at the bottom sits on the basis, right? You're on that same basis right now, standing on your square, right? So when you meet a fellow Moorish American brother, you press his hand. Say Islam meaning peace. Islam, brother, he's gonna press your hand back. And that's symbolic of a contract that, brother, if you ever, we had this conversation the other day, if you ever need me, push that pride aside, and brothers, y'all know we good for that. Be hurting and needing and won't tell nobody. But if you need me, you call me, and it's my obligation to be there for you, and vice versa. Understood? Dad knows that from his day. Back in Dad's day, I pressed Dad's hand last time he came, and when he squeezed my hand, I said, "Oh yeah, I know this right here," because I know all about that. Them the brothers that raised me, and I knew, yes sir. So when he did it, I almost was like, "Yes sir," non-verbal, but it was like I understood that meant that we have a powerful work ahead of us. Okay, so always remember that when you press your brother's hand, that means you got work to do. Okay, Islam, brother, and I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put this in your hands. Okay? And always remember, if somebody wants to see your nationality card, you ask them, mine for yours. You ain't got one, you can look at it, but I'm not going to put it in your hand because we're not going to give up our birthright again. All right? But welcome home to the family of nations, my brother. And now that you're already standing, we're going to close in prayer. Everyone, please stand. Please rise. Face the east, which is right ahead of us. And the tradition of our Moorish America. Oh, pardon self. I have to read the divine warning. Please remain standing. It won't take but a minute of your time. Islam. Islam. Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali founder, home office, Chicago, Illinois, March 11, 1929. A warning from the Prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the Prophet or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their Prophet, and if they lose confidence in their Prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the Prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the Prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The Prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their Prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam? Islam? Islam. Facing the east, rise 7 fingers to invoke the sacred presence of the 7 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. For our visitors, please adopt a position of prayer that is comfortable for you and giving homage to our collective creator. Please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam, Moors. Thank you for coming out. Praise Allah.
yeah.